Hello, everybody, and welcome to This Week in Cloud Computing, episode 14. I am your host, Amanda Coolong, and I am joined in studio with one Mr. Mark Jeffrey.
Yes, not two, but one. I'm not like these guys.
Just one, I know, but we have another Mark that's going to be joining us.
We do. We seem to do that a lot on the show.
I know. We'll get to that in a moment. I want to start off with some very exciting updates. We mentioned last week that this weekend had some big news coming.
We did.
And as of today, we have officially launched the network.
We have.
And announced $300,000 in angel funding.
Yes, indeed.
And you are our CEO.
You didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
Who do you think was paying your bills?
I don't know. Sheesh.
Well, now you know.
Now I know. So great news for this weekend. You know, make sure you check it out and make sure you spread the word for us.
Yes.
Kind of big news.
Kevin Rose tweeted it
Kevin
earlier
Rose
today,
helped spread
so
the word for us
thank you,
earlier
Kevin.
today.
Appreciate
Thanks,
that.
Kevin. Good stuff. And since Mark is going to be busy doing all the CEO stuff, This Week in Cloud Computing is looking for a new co-host to join me on the show.
Are.
So if you think you can put up with Amanda, if you think.
And you think you got the chops.
And you
think you can sit in this chair, then please
That's the hot seat over
This is
there.
the hot one.
That's
This is the hard one.
seat.
Exactly.
So point them to me, Amanda at thisweekend.com or talent@thisweekend.com.
Yep.
And speaking of casting, we're also doing an open casting call for new hosts.
This Saturday.
This Saturday. So we've had people asking on Twitter what the details are for that. So promptly at 11 a.m.
Yes, 11 a.m.
on Saturday.
Here in the studios, which is at 902 Colorado Ave in Santa Monica.
So make sure you stop on by if you think you got the chops for this weekend. And if you want to send us anything ahead of time, talent@thisweekend.com.
Yep, that goes to Lon and myself. If you
Exactly.
know who Lon is, so.
I wanted to throw out a random analyst stat because I keep finding these and I think they're fun and they're helpful for all of us. Gartner's reported that by 2012, 20% of businesses will own no IT assets at all. Everything will be cloud-based.
By 2012, so in a year.
In a year.
Wow, that's huge.
So the end of the world is marked by the end of...
That's right, by no IT department. 20% of it's gone.
The end of IT. Yeah. So there you have it. And quick thank you to our sponsors, of course. This Week in Cloud Computing is brought to you by Verticore, Storm on Demand, which we have
wearing
the
my
shirt.
full
He's wearing
Storm
the shirt.
shirt today. Yeah.
And NetDNA, so you can follow those on @Verticore, @Storm on Demand, and @NetDNA CDN.
Yes. Please thank them on Twitter. We always like to thank them.
Please do. And we have guests, I should hope, today.
Yes, we do.
So we have joining us Mark Thiele of Data Center Pulse, and also Shai Berger of Fonolo. So we will be chatting with them here momentarily, but first, I think we have some news.
Yes, we do. Doing my news dance. I like
you guys missed the news dance. He was doing this wonderful little boogie over here, kind of like, doing his dance. So anyway, a lot of news stories today. We've got a big one to start with. Microsoft is suing Salesforce.
Yes.
9 counts of patent infringement. 9. But get this, they're claiming that this CRM software that is central to Salesforce was actually their invention.
That's amazing.
Microsoft's invention.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I read a little bit more about this and just a few more details. Some of the specific patent claims are mapping between logical data and physical data, which is pretty broad. Displaying a web page having an embedded menu. Stacking toolbars in a computer display. So, I mean, it's really pretty broad stuff from what the
kind of how the software works, you know, basic features and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I was actually chatting with Mark Suster this week in Venture Capital as soon as the show was over, and I said, Mark, come on, what do you think of this? Because he used to work at Salesforce.
Sure.
And he said, honestly, there really isn't a lot of information that they're presenting about this, and he said it may just be that when it comes to suing people, you have a time window, and that time window may be up, or Microsoft may have tried to work this out with Salesforce kind of offline, and now it's finally coming to a head. So lots of speculation around it.
Yeah, according to what I read, they actually tried to talk to Salesforce.
Yeah.
And Salesforce basically kept responding, well, we're studying the matter, we're studying the matter, we're studying the matter. And Microsoft finally, it appears, has had enough.
Or Benioff could have just pissed them off.
Yeah, that could be a lot of things. Could be a lot of things there.
So I want to pull in our guests for this. I mean, Mark Thiele, what do you think?
Well, it's an interesting question. The technology field in general relative to patents is such a difficult space to wander into. I'm not sure I want to venture an opinion, but you know, we live in a world of software these days, and that's my industry is software. The tools that every company use are software these days. I don't I don't know how we're going to maintain patents forever when virtually any service that somebody can dream up can be written in software. Then it's only a matter of who wrote it first and how exactly they wrote it. Otherwise, there'd only be one virtualization play, and there'd only be one operating system, and so on and so forth. So I don't know. It's a tough question. I'm glad I'm not the one that's in the courtroom trying to figure it out.
Very fair point. Let's not get into a discussion about Creative Commons here.
Yes.
Shai, what do you have to say about this?
I'd echo all of those comments. To me, it always seems like this bizarro world it's the same products and services we all know and love, recast through some weird language that only the patent lawyers seem to understand. And these stories that you hear about one company suing another. I mean, it's almost like you could pick any random two names and say, sure, I'll believe they're suing. A is suing B. It seems like you could come up with any justification you want. And as you suggested, there's probably a political, deeper story behind why giant company A decides at this moment in time to sue giant company B. I don't think us mere mortals could really look at it from the outside and figure out what's really happening there.
Exactly.
We just see the battle on Mount Olympus and lightning bolts flying around. Right. It's anybody's guess as to why.
The gods versus the humans.
Or versus each other.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Okay.
All right, well, moving on to number 2. Google has its I/O conference happening right now. Lots of potential stories coming out of that in the media space and stuff like that. But today, they already unveiled that they're teaming up with VMware, specifically on the Google App Engine for Business. So the companies said that they plan to do research on multiple fronts. Really want to know what that means. And that the project will support systems that aren't proprietary. So I want to know what everyone's thoughts are on this partnership. Why specifically do you think Google partnered with VMware? And what types of businesses do you think will join Google's public cloud? I mean, do businesses want the same internet at work that they enjoy at home? That sort of thing. What do you think, Mark?
Well, so I looked a little bit at the specifics of this. 2 things popped out at me in the article. One was that Google will provide predictable billing. That is a huge one, because when we tried to use cloud computing here at Mahalo, back when I was CTO, for one of our offerings, we used one of the cloud providers. I got a bill at the end of the first month, and my eyes about popped out of my head. and I really realized there was no way I could know ahead of time what that bill was going to be. And that was actually a huge kind of wake-up call. And we actually pulled the project back onto our own dedicated servers because of that fact, because we did not have predictable billing. So the fact that they're now announcing predictable billing, that is a huge worry in the CTO's mind, or the CEO's mind also, that is now gone. Or if they live up to their promise. So I actually think this is a pretty big announcement just based on that alone. Okay. There's a few other things in there as well, but I'll let the other gentlemen speak about that.
Sure. Well, our second Mark Thiele, what do you have to say about this one?
Yeah, I can't say that I've read enough about it to fully understand the motivation, but I would agree with the chargeback. In general, there's 2 major areas that are weak in the cloud services or cloud available applications today, and that really relate to pricing and service level agreements. And while I don't think that Google's ready to offer serious service level agreements.
Actually, let me correct you on that, because the article specifically did say they would be offering SLAs and support. So that's another thing that they've added. So yeah.
Well, so that's great. And so then the question is it a SLA that a CIO or a CEO can feel good about? Right. Which is, I mean, almost every one of the cloud providers today have a service level agreement. The problem is it's just not very committal. And there's, for instance, I don't know of any service level agreements that provide provision for lost work due to the cloud being unavailable or applications being unavailable, things like that. And those are the types of provisions that have been in telecom SLAs for years. Now, they're not very good in telecom SLAs, but they are standard. Beyond that, certainly, from a foundational virtualization platform, VMware has one of the best on the market, if not the best, and the most advanced. There's never going to be a problem from either CEO's perspective tying their names together from a publicity standpoint. You just can't do any better than that.
Oh, absolutely. Lots of credibility there.
Yeah.
What do you think, Shai? Why do you think that Google is partnering up with VMware, and what do you think of the Google App Engine for Business?
Well, I think this tie-up is part of a larger trend of new competitors arising that want to be your outsourced computing provider. There's this general trend where you used to go to your local data center, local ISP, rent computers from them, rent the rack space, and then the first move really was Amazon with EC2 stealing a lot of that business away. Google wants that business to go their way. And now ISPs are going to try to play in that game as well. There's a cloud computing company actually just down the road from us called Anomaly that sells software to ISPs basically to replicate that kind of offering so that your local ISP will be offering the same thing that Amazon EC2 offers, the same thing that Google with VMware wants to offer. Just a few weeks ago, we saw a big acquisition, CA buying 3Tera for the same sort of purpose. So they want to be in that space. I think it's probably likely that Anomaly will be acquired by someone big as well. This is just a new area of strong competition. There's a lot of enterprise dollars being shifted around, and so this is positioning for those dollars.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, every single show we are talking about, more partnerships and more acquisitions and more companies that are jumping on the bandwagon with their own cloud play. Let's move on to number 3.
Sure.
There was another the conferences galore. My goodness.
A lot of conferences.
The CA World Conference happened last week in Vegas, and Dr. Gopal, the Executive Vice President of Products and Technology, had this to say. IT will be about managing a highly virtualized, highly adaptable internal and external supply chain where the focus is on the product. In this new era, the entire internet is going to be the data center. Now, I want to throw this one first at Mark Thiele because, come on, data centers, what do you think about this? Is the internet going to be the data center?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I would call it the internet as the data center, but it's really just semantics. I mean, the reality is that although I would consider CA a direct competitor to the company that actually pays my bills, Service Mesh, at least they are as of yesterday's announcement for having a cloud management platform. What he said is absolutely right. The unit of compute is being moved out to being a data center. And whether that data center is a container, a pod of cabinets inside a larger data center, or whatever it is, the unit of compute is no longer a processor or a server with several processors in it. And as far as automation and service delivery, I mean, our own little catchphrase at Service Mesh is everything as a service. And when we install our management platform for companies, that's exactly what we end up helping them with at the enterprise level with their own internal organization and their applications, et cetera, is helping them move in that direction. So, and specifically as it relates to data centers, I've written about this and lived this for years, and I really see that in the not too distant future, data center capacity will be added as distinct units. Those units can be modified based on whether they're storage heavy, processor heavy, or network heavy, or some combination of the above. And you'll be able to distribute them where it's convenient or where they offer the most bang for the buck from a cost of power or from a local resource perspective relative to network or water or even latency for your customers. So I really do see the data center market becoming much more dynamic. On the one hand, it could be easier for the private enterprise to own a data center in the future. But on the other hand, because the market is changing so fast, I actually think it will push more people into a managed services environment with going to service providers that can offer them data center space on demand along with cloud-enabled applications.
Very fair point. Let's move over to you, Shai. Do you think that the whole focus of IT is going to be about managing more of a virtualized internal and external supply chain?
It's hard to disagree with a statement like that. I think this is a trend that's been around for a very, very long time. I don't think there's anyone around who doesn't see this as the trend. And it's not that there's been some sharp discontinuity here. This started, a decade ago when you could have your ISP run your email systems for you, and as we move down the road, more and more systems can be up in the cloud or can be partly in the cloud, and absolutely that's part of the game.
Mm-hmm. Well, one other quick thing that came out of the CA conference last week, too, I just wanted to throw this one out there. Yet another association of sorts. They announced Cloud Commons.
Oh, actually, I went and looked at this, yeah.
Yeah, Cloud Commons.
Weirdly, it was down when I went to go look at it. So, yes.
That's not a good sign.
Yes, but it came back up. It came back up later.
So, just another online resource where IT professionals can find resources on cloud computing. But I'm wondering if it's more self-serving.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that there's got to be some of that to this, but
yeah.
But it does look like they're trying to unify and put in one place all this information that's flying around. It's a lot of cheerleading, though. I mean, I'm noticing that as well. All the articles like, "Yay, cloud, go cloud." Nobody's saying, "Hey, the cloud is garbage," and or there are these issues with it.
That's true.
I haven't seen that yet.
They do say that they're trying to provide a comprehensive and unbiased source that's aggregating all this information around cloud computing, but. What they're not saying is that they're cheerleading cloud computing. It's not, yeah. So I want to move on to yet another conference, the Sapphire Conference in Orlando. SAP announced a keystone of its private cloud strategies. So they're now running their enterprise resource planning, or ERP, software on the vBlock system, and that's backed by Cisco, EMC, and VMware, actually.
Yep.
So what's interesting with this, SAP had originally tested their new setup with Levi Strauss to show that it could actually lead to cost savings. Now, the reason I bring up that specific customer, Levi had originally implemented SAP back in 2003. And at the time, with the way they had to implement it, it really kind of fell apart.
Basically didn't work.
It didn't work.
Yeah.
And it really affected their earnings. Like even Q2 of 2008 was pretty bad for Levi. So I'm wondering, is this kind of a, we're really sorry, let's try this out and show people that cloud computing can work, handshake that SAP is having with Levi? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly sounds like a PR move on their part.
Yeah.
Hopefully this one will continue to go well, and they won't end up with egg on their face again. But
yeah,
so far so good.
And the other point here too is, the cloud's promising efficiency and cost savings, and for these guys specifically, we're talking private clouds. So, Mark Thiele, what I'd like to throw to you is do you think private cloud is really where things are going to end up, or do you think it's just another one of those blips and you're going to have it's just going to be a cloudy day in general?
I think there's going to be room for pretty much every version of cloud, and unfortunately, all of us have different definitions of what a cloud is, and whether it's private or hybrid or public or whatever. But I would say that at least in my generic version of private cloud, that's a cloud that's specifically built for a distinct organization's application environments, and whether that private cloud is hosted somewhere else or hosted internally doesn't really matter. But I do see that similar to the mainframe environments, I mean, there's a big reason why mainframes are still in some companies, and that's because the cost of moving or changing an application like SAP or Oracle or whatever for a large organization can run into the tens and sometimes even the hundreds of millions of dollars. So the idea of worrying about a little bit better efficiency or a little bit better availability or something like that, even over the course of a 10-year lifespan, is a fairly minimal payback as compared to the business interruption and cost associated with making a major change just because you want to move it to cloud. So I really see that this is going to be a time-tested process. It'll be very much a grandfather approach into moving things in as opportunity presents itself, and it'll also apply to when we have maturity in the cloud delivery market. And right now, there's a lot of great services out there, but for larger enterprises, most of the services they're using are services that would be considered less than business critical.
Right.
And so it's going to take a few years.
Yeah, no, I definitely would agree. I mean, there's so much noise right now, and that's really where I'm going with this too. Is why did SAP choose to focus on a private cloud? So, Shai, do you have any points with this?
The distinction, the definition of a private cloud, I've always found kind of murky, and I'll agree with Mark Thiele about certain parts of an organization being very cloud resistant. He mentioned these old style mainframes. The area that my company focuses on, the call center, is another one of those areas that's very cloud resistant. Large companies have these call centers that are just built on legacy equipment, huge sunk costs, big investment, and very critical systems. It's mission critical that it's up all the time. These things aren't moving to the cloud anytime soon. There are other applications in a company that are well suited for maybe a private cloud, if that's what you want to call it. It just goes back to the quote from your earlier question about IT becoming this job of really choosing what stays local, what goes to a private cloud, what part of public cloud. It's all part of the same dish.
Right. Well, getting on to that point again about mission critical, Amazon has announced another cheaper service with a less reliable service, actually, lower service level, cheaper storage. It's called reduced redundancy storage, or RRS. I keep wanting to call it RSS, but it's RRS.
RRS, yes.
So less reliable tier of Amazon's simple storage service. So, Mark, do you think people are actually going to jump on this one? Is this just, Amazon's way of addressing, the constantly crowded market?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a crappy pitch. It's like, we'll offer you a crappier version of our service, which a lot of people are still a little sketched out about, the cloud in general anyway. So, although I do believe Amazon is very trusted as a cloud offerer, but I wouldn't use this, because I think about the way we actually use it in Mahalo is anytime someone uploads images into Mahalo, they go to Amazon. And the reason we do that is so Amazon has all the image protections, and we don't have to worry about someone uploading an image and then there's actually code embedded in that image, which then it gets loose in Mahalo. So it's good, but I want it to work, and I don't want to worry about it breaking, and I want it to be reliable and fast and super redundant. I don't want to ever lose any part of Mahalo.
There's less replication with this version.
I wouldn't use this, but I don't know, and I think their pricing is good enough for small businesses that I think they're targeting with this. They've already got them. I don't understand the logic behind this, bottom line.
I don't either. Mark Thiele, what do you have to say about this one?
Yeah, I'd largely agree with the other Mark. I mean, I think that there will be takers just because there's always some startup somewhere that's struggling and needs massive amounts of disk space for a brief period of time, and the chance of losing it is a lower risk than spending the extra money. So there will be a market for it. But I think one of the things that Amazon is really good at in their data centers and in their infrastructure is understanding that no matter what the price, if you're getting any money for a service, you're being more efficient and getting more return on investment from your acquisitions of hardware and software, et cetera, than if you turn it off. And so that goes against what a lot of people understand and believe in the IT world. I mean, even many products out there in the virtualization market theoretically will help you be more efficient by turning off your servers when they're not being used, physically shutting them down, et cetera, by consolidating VMs. And that's all great, but the reality is that from a return on investment standpoint, that cost of power is only a small portion of the cost of owning the server, and you're actually better off finding a way to keep the server busy. And so they're working really hard to keep all of their stuff busy, even if they're only getting 50 cents on the dollar compared to the regular price.
True.
Oh, that's interesting. So you think the reason they're doing it is actually fairly self-serving. They're basically like, all right, we built all this infrastructure. Some of it's still not being used, so what if we just sort of do Crazy Eddie style, like, our prices are insane, and you get cheap computing power.
Salesman.
Yeah. It's like, we'll have the bargain basement for this stuff.
Yeah. No, absolutely. If you think about the spot market for the EC2 environment, it's exactly the same, right? The bottom line is it's kind of like
that's true,
an airline calling you up at 2 hours before the flight takes off and says, hey, there's a ticket still available. Do you want it for $200 instead of the original $800?
Got it.
Very good comparison.
Well, now this makes sense. Yeah, now I understand a little bit better. Yep.
Shai, do you agree that this is the bargain basement?
Yeah, I think it's Amazon exploring this market, which is still has a lot of unknowns. They're exploring the role of price point versus reliability, and they're seeing, if we lower the price point, is it going to raise the demand? But they want to do that in a way that doesn't, cannibalize their existing business. So they put in a caveat that, well, this actually isn't this is a second-rate product. So it's not going to steal from people that are already signed up for their flagship product. This is a pretty classic business technique. The example airline tickets is a good one. You can find it in a lot of industries. So I don't see it as a very surprising move, a very savvy one.
Yeah, agreed.
Agreed. Well, I think, we should probably get some umbrellas, here in the studio.
Feeling myself
because
grow more heroic by the moment.
Cloudy.
That's right,
Very
folks.
cloudy.
Get your little guys out, make them dance around, because it's Storm on Demand time. Storm on Demand. Storm on Demand is an infrastructure as a service cloud computing platform that is powerful enough to replace dedicated servers. A proprietary cloud platform designed by Liquid Web, one of the largest web hosting providers with over 12 years of experience. So they're not just showing up with, opening up their suitcase, 5 minutes ago. They've been here for a while. It is easier to use and less expensive than Amazon EC2. Features include server setup in minutes, easy scaling, heroic voices, and little guys. Also, backup and restoration capabilities, pay-as-you-go utility-style billing, and much more. Some options include cPanel, Fantastico, Ubuntu, Debian, CentOS, fully managed servers, private networking, and much more. Storm on Demand. StormOnDemand.com. When you need a storm, StormOnDemand.com.
I love our little
It's
guys.
fun. It's so much fun.
I love them. Aren't they great?
They're great. I love them too. Oh, mine fell over.
Yours fell
It's
over.
Back up now.
That's because mine attacked it.
That's why.
Storm on Demand on Twitter as well. Make sure you thank our sponsors, please. So I would like to jump into a discussion now with Mark Thiele. So Mark, you are the president and founder of Data Center Pulse, but you've also just started a new role as well as VP of Data Center Strategy at Service Mesh. Do you want to start off by telling us a little bit about your new role?
Sure. So the role at Service Mesh is interesting. It's a very much a hybrid role. It's not directly related to running Service Mesh data centers. The Service Mesh itself is a fairly small organization of only about 50 people at this point. It's really more related to a combination of things like being able to help drive product design relative to the relationship product has with data centers, also to customers understand how our products and our services can positively impact their data center environments, or what changes they may need to make or may consider making in order to reap greater benefits from our products in their environments. I'm also a part-time support to our professional services organization relative to any work within and without data centers, and help develop partnerships in the industry with service providers and things like that. So I've really got kind of a catch-all role at this point.
Understood. Well, makes sense. You've got over 20 years of experience specifically within IT infrastructure. And one thing I'm very curious about is, we mentioned in the news, Levi Strauss having this huge problem with implementing SAP back in the day, just a few years ago. And looking now at, if that were different and they were just doing this in the cloud, what have you seen in terms of changes over the 20 years of your career so far?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing really has been in the availability of more efficient systems, and I think the hardest part of this question isn't the systems and whether they're better, because I think we could all argue that they are, whether it's virtualization or whether it's more processing in a smaller box or more processing per watt. I mean, any number of measures that you create. To some degree, even software companies are building their software so that they are more efficient and use less power. Things like that. I mean, Microsoft is even trying to build Windows so that it boots up faster and uses less power while it's booting. So there's a lot of things to say that we're making improvements, and we are. I would argue that, even in building data centers. But the real issue is people involvement. It has really nothing to do with the product. There were very successful projects when Levi and there was somebody else famous at the time that whose implementation blew up. I can't remember whether that was Nike or somebody else. Whether it was 15 or 20 years ago now. And the reality is it's generally people. It's how you've defined your project, how you've defined your goals, how how you follow through on them, how much process you try to build unique versus take out of the box, and how much value there really is in that process. I mean, I've been on ERP projects from the infrastructure perspective, where the organization, the IT organization running the project, has taken 2 years just to document processes prior to actually putting any code in place. And I mean, that's all good and everything, but in my mind, if you're going to go to that trouble, then you ought to go to the trouble of trying to figure out the right way to run your processes so that you can take the most advantage of the capabilities of the software, not the other way around.
Right.
So it's you know, there's no simple answer, and as many people that might agree with me, there will also be people that will disagree and say there are unique processes in enterprises that should be accommodated in software. And I'm not trying to say that's not true. You know, quite the contrary. I actually believe that is. You know, back to the point that that you pulled from my profile about the infinite promise of IT. I mean, I truly believe that. Yeah. But you have to be careful about just trying to write everything you do today into your software package and then install it, because you're going to be doing the same bad things you're doing now, only you're going to be doing them a lot faster.
Only you're going to be doing them a lot faster.
Right.
Wow, that's a very good point. You pulled up the quote. I just want to share it with the audience. You said, "I love IT for its infinite promise. There are always new and better ways to improve on old assumptions." So that was a great quote. Thanks for that, Mark. You also said, "In my 20 years in IT, there's never been a time with more promise for driving up efficiency and driving down complexity." So my question to you then, Mark, is why now?
Yeah, I think you know, this is a show all by itself. You know, I'd love to spend, you know, an hour or even longer with 2 or 3 people talking about this very subject. But I really see that the promise of cloud-enabled platforms, you know, whether you iPaaS or IaaS or SaaS models, you name it, any one or all of those things, they're helping to move getting the wrenching part of IT, from using somebody who likes to work on cars or motorcycle metaphor, away from part of the daily job, and instead putting IT truly putting IT in a better position to actually add real value to the enterprise. And so I think you know, a real disservice has been done by our CEOs and our CIOs in general over the last 20 years, by really putting many IT organizations in the position of only being valued for what money they can squeeze out of their own services. And that wasn't the original promise of IT. The original promise of IT was to enable better capabilities for your business. And that's still true. And smart organizations, Walmart is a great example, have built their whole business based on that concept. And so it's really short-sighted to think that the only way to treat IT is to figure out how to squeeze more money out of them.
So, Mark, would you say then that what cloud computing is doing is helping to go back to IT's original role?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I really think that for those of us in IT that are forward-thinking enough to say, you know, this change is coming, I can stand and have it knock me down, or I can, you know, grab a board and ride it. You know, the ones that ride it are going to find, yes, it's a new frontier. It's going to be scary. Their jobs are going to change. But the thinking process that the average IT person has relative to automation, simplification of process, getting rid of redundancy in tasks, et cetera, you know, I hate to say it, but generally it's because we're lazy. You know, I mean, if I could figure out how to create a robot to sweep the house, I would. I hate doing it twice.
There is one for that, isn't there?
Yeah, there is, exactly. I just wish I'd figured it out. You know, and so that's really the role of IT. How can IT look at your business and help automate it and help it address business problems more quickly and more effectively? Right. And I really think that taking advantage of cloud and all of its trappings has that promise. And I also think there's the potential for cloud to further democratize IT. And what I mean by that is that I see you know, real applications and real services, actual IT environments, not just specific applications, being much more available to the every person and the every company, not just the large enterprise that has millions of dollars in IT budget. And so that democratization will actually drive additional business, additional IT ideas for how IT can be used, additional ideas for how applications can be generated. No different than what happened with the iPhone. I mean,
Yeah.
4 years
a really good
ago,
point.
who would have believed that we needed 300,000 applications for a phone?
I know. I know.
Lo and behold.
Well, I would definitely agree with you on, just democratizing everything. I mean, we've even had discussions here with some of the news stories about certain cloud services that are targeting SMBs specifically, and obviously cloud computing in general is great for startups.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Absolutely.
Just the scalability factor and whatnot.
Yeah, and it's great too. It's just the meme of cloud computing has made IT like kind of sexy again. Because it's been sort of this place where nobody notices the IT guy unless stuff's down. So
Exactly.
it's sort of been a thankless position, and now it's like kind of cool, and everyone's thinking about it and talking about it again. So it's just the idea of it alone is helping.
Right.
Agreed.
Mark, briefly, what are some of the biggest changes that people can expect to see in data centers over the next few years?
Well, I think some of the key changes have already started in places like Google and Microsoft, and that's really a further modularization of the environments. And what's held back most organizations in moving to a more modular environment? Well, one is that the industry in general doesn't have a lot of great modularity. For instance, power delivery is not very modular, contrary to what you might think by the fact that you can plug something into any wall. In a data center, it's just not that easy. Air conditioning has gotten much more modular over the last few years, but that's historically been a problem as well. And the buildings have all been very large cement structures, which don't necessarily yell out modularity. But the thing that's kept the infrastructure and therefore the smaller footprint of a modular data center from really happening is the widespread adoption of virtualization and cloud computing. If you think about the environments that are in Microsoft and Google's data centers, they were able to take advantage of this modular footprint of the container data center because they can actually, first they have the scale, right? When they buy systems, they're not buying a rack, they're not buying half a rack, they're not buying a server, they're buying hundreds of servers or even thousands of servers all at the same time. And so from a scale perspective, that's an obvious win. The next piece is that when they put in capacity, they can put in capacity, not architecture. And today, if you're not fully virtualized or cloudified.
Cloudified, I like that term.
There you go, something new. Then when you put IT equipment in, you're really putting in architecture still. You're putting in verticals, and verticals don't quickly span across contained data centers. On the other hand,
Let me just stop you there. Actually, just go back to the architecture. Define that for people who may not understand what you're talking about there.
I mean, almost anything is an architecture, right? Even obviously cloud is an architecture or has architecture, and using multiple containers for your data center has architecture, and the hardware therein has architecture. But I guess specifically what I'm referring to when I say verticals in hardware and the associated architecture is that historically, if you were to want to upgrade your ERP system, whether it's your Oracle or SAP system, or even your Microsoft Exchange environment or something like that, you had to buy a package of hardware and software, switches, storage, and servers that were compliant with whatever you had previously installed for that environment, right? Especially if you're adding capacity and you're not completely changing out the environment for a new underlying hardware architecture. So
let me just rephrase that a little bit, just so we're all on the same page. So when you can't just sort of slap a little bit more on if you have this much and you want this much. You kind of have to go from here to here because that's the next largest one you can go to because you're limited by the framework of the architecture you've already built. If you want to go from here, then you have to go to here. There's no sort of gradient in between. There's no sort of stretching it. So what he's referring to is now. With Google, for example, Google's infrastructure is extraordinarily elastic because they just drop another, hardware PC in, and it just gets bigger. They just keep adding them. They don't have to re-architect it every time they want to grow.
That's right. That's right. And that's why, that's why I say your data center really should be framed more as compute capacity these days, as opposed to physical structures or physical architectures of systems. It's more capacity. When you need more disk, you add more disk. When you need more storage, more processor or more network, you add more of that. And in Google and Microsoft data centers, they can do just that.
Yeah.
Great. Well, any final tips or advice that you want to share with our audience, Mark?
Relative to data centers specifically, I would say hold off on building anything new as long as you can. Maximize your utilization of your virtual and cloud environments so that you get the most out of the environment you already have. Because no matter what you save by building something new, you have to make the assumption that it's going to be not only a major investment in time and resources, but it's also going to be very disruptive. And if you're building a data center as a physical structure, as opposed to buying a container of capacity, then you're also married to something that will likely be in use by your company, good or bad, for another 10 or 15 years. And so if you can't grow within the capacity that you have available to you already, then look for a good partner or several good partners that will allow you to expand as quickly as possible into their environments to hedge your bets. And then as you move forward, as you get your environment fully virtualized, as you make business decisions relative to what you want to do with cloud, then you can start making appropriate long-term business choices relative to, do you want to own data centers anymore? If you do, how much of your infrastructure do you want to have in data centers, and how much will be in hosted environments, and things like that. And that will help drive your business decision relative to having a data center or building more capacity. As opposed to specific advice on a technical design of a data center. I think more of a strategy of ownership is what I'm trying to give out here.
So going back to your point before, don't forget the people in all of this.
That's right.
And have a plan.
Absolutely. Yep.
People and plan. Well, I think it's time for a little musical interlude here at This Week in Cloud Computing.
Do you now?
I do.
And actually, our guests, feel free to sing along if you'd like. It's totally a sing-along kind of thing. Your cloud hosting provider letting you down. Take a look at managed cloud solutions from Verticore. A managed private cloud solution can easily replace your current IT infrastructure and eliminate IT pains. Avoid the cost and hassle of buying and maintaining IT equipment and infrastructure. Deliver 100% uptime to end users. Configure and deploy computing resources in minutes. Not yet. With Verticore, oh Verticore, you should be using Verticore. Verticore, oh Verticore, you should be using Verticore. With Verticore, your private cloud is hosted in an advanced and secure data center. It uses only best-in-class hardware and software and gives you access to scalable bandwidth. Verticore's team of experts monitor and maintain your private cloud 24/7 by 365. Your internal staff can concentrate on stuff that matters instead of monkeying around with wires and stuff that doesn't matter. With Verticore, oh Verticore, you should be using Verticore. Verticore, oh Verticore, you should be using Verticore.
Mark Jeffrey, Verticore.
Thank you, thank you. I'll be playing here all week, thank you.
At Verticore on Twitter, make sure you
Please
thank our wonderful
Verticore.
sponsor because they make this show possible.
I ain't singing for nothing here, so thank our sponsors.
Laughter ensues in a wonderful way. So I would like to move on now to App of the Week. So we also have joining us again Shai Berger with Fonolo. Now, Fonolo has had some amazing press coverage, some great awards. You were in Time Magazine's Top 50 Best Websites, accolades from GigaOM, Red Herring 100 finalist.
What is Fonolo?
Fonolo. So it's this dialing service that makes it easier and faster and less frustrating to call large companies.
Really?
So that's the consumer side. They have a big, huge enterprise play that we're going to be talking about here. But when you're calling, when I'm calling T-Mobile or you're calling AT&T, then you go through that entire phone tree and it's such a pain. And Fonolo really helps you to navigate that a lot more efficiently.
Okay.
So does that sound about fair, Shai?
That sounds exactly right.
So you focus specifically on a lot on the technical and economic issues that drive the use of streaming, telephony, other real-time protocols, and entertainment, education, enterprise markets. So what was the impetus for you to start Fonolo?
Well, I think you hit on the frustration exactly. It's one we all appreciate. The phone menu is just a part of dealing with companies that is very annoying. And
to put it lightly.
And I got together with my team here, and we said, let's fix that. I'm sure there's a better way to handle phone menus, and that was the beginning of a pretty long journey. It turns out that tackling the phone menu problem led us to a pretty big journey in understanding what makes the call center experience so unpleasant today, and why it seems to be stuck in that way. And so what started as a fairly narrow mission to just solve the phone menu problem has turned into something pretty big about dragging the call center world into the modern era, and it connects to this cloud computing concept that we've been talking about on the show.
So now when I use Fonolo and I'm calling into a Fonolo-enabled business, what is my experience like, and how is it like magically better? I can't even imagine like how you could improve upon it.
You can't imagine the wonderful world of Fonolo.
So now when I call it a Fonolo-empowered operation, what do I experience?
Well, if you call an enterprise that is a customer of Fonolo, then your experience is improved in a number of ways. That's really the vision of our enterprise product. That product is very new, so I can't point you at any companies right now where you can do that publicly. The Fonolo experience through our consumer service, so what happened there is that we've got these companies in our database where they didn't have to cooperate with us at all. And this is the crux of the Fonolo system, is that we're able to go out and figure out the phone menu independently of the companies.
Oh, wow, okay.
So the Fonolo consumer service that we launched basically allows you to look through the phone menus of about 500 companies and then connect directly to any point in those menus. And we call that process deep dialing.
So you get you've introduced random access to what has been a linear experience.
That's a very good way to put it. If we can bring up my screen, I'll do a quick walkthrough, I'll show you the consumer app really quickly, and then we'll move on from there.
Okay, so I'm joining the meeting right now. Are you in it yet?
Yes.
Okay, let me pull this up. Well, while I'm pulling this up, why don't you talk a bit with Mark about the current state of web telephony integration specifically, and where Fonolo fits into that?
Well, there's been a lot of exciting stuff happening where the web world is sort of colliding with the world of telephony. We had a wave of what was called Voice 2.0 a few years back. Google Voice is a great example of this, where we're using the web to manage our voice experience. And in general, voice over IP has done a lot to lower costs for telephony. We've got alternate channels like Skype. I mean, there's been a whole world of change in how we interact with the phones.
Right.
The world of the call center, however, seems to have been stuck. And as I said at the beginning, the business opportunity we see with Fonolo is that we've invented a piece of technology that bolts onto the existing call centers the way they work, and kind of lifts up that experience to make it a little bit better for everyone. And at the same time, makes it more efficient for the call center.
Right. Well, I am now in, so if we want to jump to my screen, then we can take a peek at Fonolo. All right. Are you in with us, Shai?
I see it, yes.
Perfect.
All right. So I am now logged into the Fonolo consumer service, and this is a free service. Everyone can go and try it.
Now, is it free for a limited time, or is it free for a limited time, Shai? Or
totally free.
Great.
Totally free, and it's also available on iPhone to do all the same function. And it's free because its purpose for us really is to drive awareness of what we're doing, and also to refine our technology. So this is we're not looking to make money off of this service. So let me just walk you through here quickly. I'm looking at the entry for Air Canada, one of my favorite companies to call. And you see you have common actions. So these are points inside the phone menu for Air Canada that I can connect to directly.
This is genius.
If I go here to view menu, I now can see the entire menu of Air Canada transcribed for me.
Oh, wow.
Now,
These are all the words that you would have had to listen to if you had dialed the regular way.
That's wonderful.
And
you can jump ahead. You don't have to wait.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, do you love them because they're
Now-
so terrible that your service just it has such a great effect on them? Is that why?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I thought.
Something to that effect. Something to that effect. Now, if you notice that each of these spots I can call to with these call buttons, and when I click that, I'm prompted up here for a callback number. And then when I hit start call, that process is going to get going in the background. So now what's happening behind the scenes
Wow.
It's
is
navigating the menu.
our computer is dialing into Air Canada. From Air Canada's perspective, this looks like a regular old phone call.
Right.
Except that rather
Nice.
than me navigating manually, our system will be doing the navigation.
Oh,
and when
that's
it gets
awesome.
to the agent, it's going to call me back.
I love this because it's such a great example of a real need that's being addressed, a real
Yes.
problem
And
that
everyone
we
can-
all have. Everyone can relate to it.
Yes. Everyone
it's so
has
straightforward.
Everyone has felt this pain.
So now it's calling me. There's my phone. I'm
We
just
can
gonna
hear it.
answer that and put it up to the microphone here. Let's see if I
Oh,
can.
and it shows that there's a call in progress.
Yes.
Wow.
So this is the text that I'm hearing right now over my earpiece. By the way, I can record these calls as well. So it's another nice
Excellent.
feature.
So if they
And
try and
the-
say that something, didn't occur, then you can say, actually, I have a recording of it right here.
Right.
That's right. So this is the service we launched in 2008. And as you mentioned, it got a ton of press, and I mean, people just really gravitated to it quickly because I think we really hit a nerve.
A big one.
And yes. And then, we got some attention from the companies themselves, which was our hope all along, and started that conversation. And then throughout 2009, used this technology and sort of built an enterprise product around it, which we recently launched. So what does that product look like?
Okay.
The
Yes, let's
idea
see.
is
Yeah, let's
Let's see
that.
the other
that
side.
the idea is that a company, take Orbitz for example,
Yeah.
can take our technology and embed it in their own website, basically using a widget. So this is a mock-up. You can't
I
use
see.
this on Orbitz right now. But here is a button that says, we'll call you back with Fonolo. And when I click here, this is that same Fonolo experience that lives on the Orbitz site.
What a wonderful
And it's-
CRM tool.
Yeah. Now from
And so the same process will happen here, where it's going to prompt me for my phone number and connect me to the right spot at Orbitz. Now, what's the advantage to this company in doing it? Number one, they're providing a better experience for customers because we all hate phone menus, right?
Right.
So we're not
But
cursing
it
out
goes
Orbitz.
beyond-
Right, exactly.
That's right. I'm going to cancel here because I want to talk to them now. But there's a monetary advantage to them as well. One of the dark secrets of the IVR world is that they don't do a very good job of getting people to the right agent because a lot of people disregard the instructions, or they are impatient and just hit zero,
Yeah.
or just say agent. I'm sure both of you are guilty of doing that at some point.
Operator.
Exactly. And when that happens, you get to the wrong agent. The agent has to then transfer you internally, and there is a cost to that.
Right.
Okay.
Anytime someone's on the phone, they're wasting money. Bottom
Yeah.
line.
That is correct. So our pitch to companies that want to use this widget is that we can save money and make your call center operation more efficient. And the call center is a huge expense for
Yes.
any
Oh,
consumer-facing
very.
company.
I love
Yeah, let me show you So here is a mock-up on Vodafone. The widget can also be embedded rather than as a pop-up where you saw earlier.
Okay.
And you see it sort of blends color-wise, so it looks fairly natural.
So you skin it with their brand.
Yes, that's correct. Now there's another angle here, and I know it's a little bit bad form, but I'm going to show a PowerPoint.
Shai, who specifically are you competing with? Do you have direct competitors in the space?
Well, the main competition really is the incumbent providers of call center software. Call centers are all run by these very large installations, typically provided by Avaya or Genesys or Siemens or Cisco. And these are very expensive large installations. Basically, we are adding functionality that should have been added a long time ago, in my opinion, to the call center experience. That's really who we're competing with.
Right.
Do you compete with them in the sense that they? I mean, I could buy my phone service from Cisco, I suppose, but also buy from you, in addition. So, are you competing so much as you are making the existing products more efficient? Is it truly competition?
We are making them more efficient.
Which makes them less money. Is that it?
The big guys are trying to add functionality as well.
Right.
But I think we are years ahead of them. In particular, on the interface front, we spent a lot of time, because of all of our experience with the consumer service, we've learned how to make this work so that people actually use it.
Yeah.
So that people feel comfortable, because what you're doing is you're moving the opening part of a phone call onto the web or onto the mobile device. And that's actually, the mobile angle is the slide I finally dug up and hopefully is displaying now.
Sure, yeah. Let's pull up the mobile screen really quickly, and we can look at that interface. And yeah, go ahead. Let's finish up with this part.
This is another big trend. More and more of us are carrying these smartphones. I'm sure you've noticed that lots of these companies that are consumer-facing are releasing their own iPhone apps, the banks, airlines, etc. And so this is a new front end for the customer service experience. Most of these apps have a Contact Us button, and today all it does is show you the phone number. Well, it seems a real shame, given the power of these mobile devices, to reduce it to a plain old phone call.
Exactly.
So our vision is present that same experience with the deep dialing buttons that you have on the web, on the mobile app, and we have the tools to make that happen. And so now companies can present this uniform experience, both in the mobile and on the web, that's just a much more intelligent opening, a much more intelligent beginning to that transaction.
No, I think that's a really interesting point, because we usually do just have the one experience here, and to bring that deep dialing and out and make it, I don't know, kind of across the board, really. You can do it on your cell phone. You can interact with the web more. I think that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
But just in general, I mean, I'm just happy I'd be able to save time.
Yeah,
really,
it's a much
really
better
happy.
experience, clearly.
So to wrap things up then, Shai, you said that the consumer piece of this has been around for a bit, and that you just launched the enterprise version really this past year.
That's right.
Okay. Where can people go if they want to sign up for the service?
Fonolo.com. There's a fork in the road when you land there. If you're a consumer looking for a free service, there's a big button to click. If you are a company with a call center and you think we can help you,
press 2.
There's another
Press
big button that will take you. That will
the red
take you
pill
to the
or
other
the.
site.
Yeah.
That's right.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I know that I'm going to try it out. I mean,
great.
it's a pretty cool service. So,
Congratulations, it's brilliant.
Yeah, and we'll see where the enterprise piece goes, and we'll definitely keep in touch.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So everyone, make sure you check out Fonolo, and thank you to Shai Berger.
Yep.
I believe that it's getting a little bit rainy and chilly in here.
Do I hear something once again? Shield Maiden?
Ooh.
Are you feeling
Cold.
Diablo and from Valhalla?
Rainy.
Because I am. Storm on demand. Storm on demand. Storm on Demand is an infrastructure as a service cloud computing platform that is powerful enough to replace dedicated servers and little guys. A proprietary cloud platform that was designed by Liquid Web, one of the largest web hosting providers with over 12 years of experience. It is easier to use and less expensive than Amazon EC2. Features include server setup in minutes, easy scaling, backup and restoration capabilities, and pay-as-you-go utility-style billing. Options include cPanel, Fantastico, Ubuntu, Debian, CentOS, fully managed servers, private networking, and much, much more. Storm on Demand can be found at stormondemand.com and on Twitter at @StormOnDemand. Please thank our excellent sponsor, Storm on Demand. Thank you.
Storm on Demand with little men.
With little men.
On our shoulders.
Little men on exactly.
Little men on the shoulders. So I think that about wraps things up here.
That's it.
Had some great guests. Thank you to Mark Thiele for joining us with Data Center Pulse and also Service Mesh. Great new job there. And I want everyone to check out Fonolo.
Yes, please do.
Just really cool service. I mean, talking about addressing a pain point, a real pain point. So Shai Berger with Fonolo. Storm on Demand, of course, and Verticore. Make sure you thank them, and NetDNA, CDN on Twitter also, our 3 main sponsors that make This Week in Cloud Computing possible.
Yes.
And if you have any show ideas, if you are a potential host for the This Weekend Network, talent@thisweekend.com.
That's right.
And any ideas for news or guests, pitch@thisweekend.com.
That's right. And if you want to sit in this chair.
In that chair.
And host this show with Amanda, that's
if
now.
You dare.
The chair is now available.
The chair, if you dare.
And you don't have to sing. And I'll teach you how to do the Storm on Demand commercials.
He may, because we like to sing on the show. So that about wraps it up for This Week in Cloud Computing. I am your host, Amanda Coolong. Next time, same place, new cloud time, 3:30. Remember that, 3:30, same cloud channel. See you then.